Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 34 of the Ministry of Freedom Show. Before we jump in and give you the gist of what we're talking about today in the solo cast, remember to share the show. So our friends in YouTube have been taking a liking to shadow banning a few of our shorts. So it's interesting because depending on the subject matter, even stuff from the same episode, one 40-second short will get 5,000 views and the other one gets 2 views. And it's super obvious what they're doing. And I get it. It's their platform. They can do that stuff. I don't even know if I should be discussing it because who knows if they like that or not, but who cares? So there's a way to combat that, and it's to keep pressing back, like and subscribe to the channel, please. And share the content. Pick somebody that you think would benefit from what you're hearing or seeing and share it with them. Send it to them. Also, follow me on Instagram. I'm at Real Jim Moats. The show's at Ministry of Freedom Show. And I want you guys to also remember you can listen on Apple, Android, Spotify, wherever podcasts are. There's audio versions as well. So they let you pretty much say whatever you want. They don't limit views. They don't censor content. It is an authentic way to absorb content. And the same thing on YouTube. They're going to let the normal shows play. But when it comes to broken up content, the shorts that we generate, they tend to really frown on some of the stuff that we want to talk about. I don't get it. I don't think we're saying anything too crazy and controversial, but it's their platform. They do what they want. So I need you guys, share the stuff. I appreciate it. A couple things that are coming up. So we're going to talk about books today. And speaking of books, my book is coming out real soon. And what I would ask you guys to do is, and I'll have more about this as we get closer, and I'm going to do a show discussing how we arrived at the titling and kind of the process towards the end of the publishing process. It's been pretty neat. So I think that'll make for an interesting show. Buy a couple of the books. And I know it seems like a big ask. Buy a couple, give one away. It's a great way to spread the message, to advance the ministry, and it helps us a ton. Trying to get some traction for the book. And this summer is going to be about promoting the book, discussing it, breaking it down. And I'd love to have you guys read it, share your thoughts with me. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun with that as the summer progresses. So this show is inspired by our man, Chris King, who was on a couple months ago. Chris sent me a text one day. He says, hey, why don't you do like a top 10 of books that have impacted you? Because he knows I'm a voracious reader. I used to buy the team books all the time. We would have meetings and discuss different things and different books that we'd share and read as a group. And I said, that's a good idea. Let me think on that and pray on it and figure out what I come up with. So I came up with the number 7. And so today I'm going to share 7 books. That's the title of the show. And I would encourage you to read them all. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to break them down in no particular order. I'm going to read snippets from each book to give you a gist of what they are. And if you are interested, pick them up, read them. If you want to send me some questions specifically about any of them, I'm happy to answer. And I'm excited to break these down. I like to start each show with a scripture, yeah? So here we go. It's from Proverbs, very first proverb, Proverbs 1, chapters 1, verses 1 and 2, from the Voice translation. It reads, I, Solomon, David's son and Israel's king, pass on to you these proverbs, a treasury of wisdom, so that you would recognize wisdom and value discipline, that you would understand insightful teaching. To me, that's what books are, right? They're insightful teaching. It's a way to gain wisdom. I believe leaders are readers. I think it's a way to keep your mind sharp, to absorb knowledge. I love the idea of holding a real tangible book. There's nothing wrong with audiobooks. There's nothing wrong with your Kindle and things of that nature. But boy, holding a book is a neat experience. I have been to a couple old time antique stores and bookstores in the last couple of weeks and picked up some interesting history books. I'm finding books that are 50, 60, 70 years old. And I'm paying $6, $8 a book for these things. They're in near mint condition. What a neat thing to add to your collection and to read. And the perspective that you get from reading on this subject matter from stuff that was written 60 years ago, man, the world has changed a ton. I think it's just super interesting. I'm just a real book lover. That's why it's been such a privilege to write a book and to walk through the publishing process. So that's the scripture that I wanted to share. And a book that I'm reading right now during 75 Hard is called Unbeatable Mind. It's by a dude named Mark Devine, former Navy SEAL. He's a pretty neat dude. Where's that book? Unbeatable Mind. It didn't make the list, but there's a great line in it that I thought is really relevant to what we're going to discuss today. It reads, "An untrained brain is like an untrained body, weak, lethargic, and not very functional." So there you go. So I want to start out with saying, so the Bible's my number one book. Okay. I'm not going to have a list of 7 or 10 or however many books and not have the Bible on there, but that's a given to me. That's foundational. The Bible's something I read every single day. So that's not part of the seven. So I wanted to throw that out there. These are 7 books that have really impacted my life. So they've helped me grow and mature. So spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, relationally, in every way. And I think books do that. And I'm hoping that they'll do the same for you. So, in no particular order, I'm going to jump right in. We're going to start, see if I can get these shown to you. Erwin McManus, he's a pastor, a church in California. Book's called The Barbarian Way. It says, "Unleash the untamed faith within." This guy, I love the way he approaches his ministry. So I'll read you a couple snippets. Grab the readers since we're reading. "Yet Christianity over the past 2,000 years has moved from a tribe of renegades to a religion of conformists. To claim we believe is simply not enough. The call of Jesus is one that demands action. Like Israel, who longed for Egypt because the journey was more difficult than the people expected, we must be aware of the temptation to return to the captivity from which we were freed. There is but one path to freedom. There is no easy road made available. We cannot claim to know Christ and to honor him if we refuse the path he calls us to follow. Do not insist on binding him or associating him with a domesticated or civilized faith. Do not dishonor him by claiming that a life of faith is a life without risk. This war has no room for pomp or pretension. Jesus leads us into the heart of the dark kingdom, into the soul of what is most evil. He takes us where mankind has chosen to live. He calls us to where the darkness has made those who wander there desperate for light. He leads us as warriors of light to risk our lives for the deliverance of others. Again, our weapons are love, hope, and faith, and they are our only defense. Yet we above all know that they and only they liberate us and fulfill the deepest longing of our souls. If you choose to live your life in this way, if you make the insane decision to live your life for the sake of others, if you choose to follow the one whose barbarian path led him to the brutality of the cross, and if you embrace his invitation to take up your own cross and follow him, then it has begun. If you dare allow God to unlock your primal spirit, he will unleash the raw and untamed faith within. Then you will know you have chosen the barbarian way of civilization. Barbarian Way, McManus. Great stuff. Keeping on that theme, kind of a Christian theme, John Eldredge, Wild at Heart. I came across Wild at Heart back in 2004. What led me to our men's ministry at our church was they were doing a book study on Wild at Heart. And I thought, I've been feeling kind of the pull to get connected with some dudes from church, some like-minded guys. But I had that feeling like, I don't really know the Bible as well as some of these guys, and I've never read that book. But I took the leap of faith and I went, and I ended up meeting some of my best friends that I still have to this day back then, and it was amazing. And Wild at Heart, this book study was just life-changing for me. John Eldredge has other great books too, so you should certainly check him out. So for Wild at Heart, I just want to read the kind of the liner note here. John Eldredge believes what really is in the heart of men has been badly missed. When all is said and done, I think most men believe God put them in this earth to be a good boy. The problem with men, we are told, is that they don't know how to keep their promises, be spiritual leaders, talk to their wives, or raise their children. But if they'll try really hard, they can reach the lofty summit of becoming a nice guy. That's what we hold up as models of Christian maturity, really nice guys. Now, in all your boyhood dreams growing up, did you ever dream of becoming a nice guy? Ladies, was the prince of your dreams dashing or merely nice? Eldridge believes that this dedication to niceness is the reason there are so many tired and lonely women, so many fatherless children, and so few men around. He writes, "We've taken away the dreams of a man's heart and told him to play the man. As C.S. Lewis said, we castrate the gelding and bind him be fruitful. Deep in his heart, every man longs for a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. This is how he bears the image of God. That is what God made him to be." So Wild at Heart is geared a little bit towards men, but I think it's a great read for women as well because Eldridge dives into what are the roles of men and women, and those roles are formed when we're boys and girls. So he dives into that. It is amazing. It's the subtitle to it is "Discovering the Secret of a Man's Soul." So there's workbooks that go along with Wild at Heart too. You can really do a deep dive on this book and go next level with it. But that would be number two. Again, no particular order. Barbarian Way, Wild at Heart. Now, I want to also say these aren't my favorite 7 books of all time. I read a lot of fiction as well. I did not include any fiction here, but these are books that have impacted me. So the list isn't my all-time favorites. It's, I believe, the most impactful. Next, John McDougall. So he's a chaplain and a U.S. Army Ranger. He wrote the book, Jesus Was An Airborne Ranger. This is something. One of my all-time favorites. I'll read a few snippets from it. This will give you the gist of what he's talking about. We need to shove aside the pretty boy image of Christ. We need to meet and follow Christ the conqueror. When we follow the warrior Christ, we will be set free from despair, darkness, and purposelessness in our marriage, families, churches, and communities, and we will be used by God to set others free. In Ranger vernacular, Jesus was a badass. That's kind of the gist of the book. Jesus was a badass. He cites a scripture, one of my favorites, from Matthew 11, verse 12. The kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and forceful men lay hold of it. Jesus certainly was that kind of forceful man. He calls us to vigorously advance his kingdom as spiritual badasses in our homes, communities, and the world. Jesus didn't lead a wimpy life, as he has unfortunately been portrayed as doing. You don't need to lead a wimpy life either. In fact, Jesus is calling you to the exact opposite, a life that's bold, active, and robust. He is enlisting men and women who are willing to enter enemy territory and close with and destroy the evil in our world. This is the story we were created to hear. This is the mission we were designed to live. The green light is on, my friend, and it's your turn to jump. It's time to enter the fight alongside the first and greatest airborne ranger, Jesus Christ. So a little bit of a stretch. I could see that kind of old school conservative Christian people would be like, well, I don't like the comparison of, he's God Almighty and you're calling him an airborne ranger. The analogy works. It's a great book. Jesus Was an Airborne Ranger, John McDougall. That's number 3. Number 4 on the list of 7. Not a Christian book. You guys may have heard of this one. James Clear, Atomic Habits. James Clear is a remarkable dude. This book really helped me get organized. It helped me to see that instead of striving for all these huge monumental goals and targets, that basically my success is going to be broken down to what am I doing daily? What are the small incremental things that I'm willing to do each day that will set me apart from my competition? So here's a snippet from Clear's book. Why small habits make a big difference. It's so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Too often, we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action, whether it's losing weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal. We put pressure on ourselves to make some earth shattering improvement that everyone will talk about. Meanwhile, improving by 1% isn't particularly notable. Sometimes it isn't even noticeable, but it can be far more meaningful, especially in the long run. The difference a tiny improvement can make over time is astounding. Here's how the math works out. If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly down to zero. What starts as a small win or minor setback accumulates into something much more. The book goes on to lay out very specific habits that have impacted the author and things that we can do every day that's actionable. That's what I like about this book. It's, hey, if you're doing this, change it to this. Try this, do this. These habits and tracking habits, the organizational structures that are in this book, they are life changing. And if you'll implement them, you'll see immediate difference. This book is a New York Times bestseller, and it has been for a long time, sold over 10 million copies. It says tiny changes, remarkable results. So pick up Atomic Habits. Next, if anybody knows me, they know this is on the list. Extreme Ownership. Jocko Willink, Leif Babin. Extreme Ownership has changed everything for me. Changed my leadership, changed my willingness and level of accountability and willingness to take responsibility for things in my life. It's from a military perspective, but it translates into business, into relationships, into every area. There's so much in this book. We could do a whole show on just this book, but we won't. I'll leave you with, I'm going to just dive into just this part. There's 4 laws of combat Jocko teaches us. First one is cover and move. Next one is simple. Next one's prioritize and execute. And the final is decentralized command. So let's break them down. And a good portion of the book goes into breaking each of these down. Cover and move is teamwork. So what he's talking about is, so you take cover, everyone takes cover, then someone provides cover fire, you move. Then you're there, you provide cover fire, your teammates move. So it's about teamwork. So the first law of combat is essentially teamwork. Next one is simple. Don't overcomplicate things in your life. We tend to overcomplicate everything, especially in business. Let's just keep it simple. It's rare that we're going to be doing or accomplishing things that are easy, but boy, most of it is pretty simple. Third one, prioritize and execute. So we can't just randomly pick which things we're going to do. We might have a very well laid plan, but then we have to prioritize and execute. So what needs to be done right away? Make your priorities and take care of the most important thing. And decentralized command. This is perhaps, to me, the most impactful. Decentralized command teaches us delegation. It teaches us that subordinates in any organization need to have the freedom to operate within the mission parameters and to make decisions that are critical to getting the task done without checking in, getting permission, and getting approval. We need to empower those that are under us in the chain of command to make decisions. So leadership goes up the chain of command and down the chain of command. Everybody is a leader and everybody's expected to make decisions. Trust comes into that. There's no place for overly controlling leadership. That's called management. Jocko is all about leadership, accountability, and ownership. And that's what this book's all about. If you haven't picked up Extreme Ownership, it's a must. The second book after this is called Dichotomy of Leadership, I believe. Basically saying don't go too far overboard, talking about the dichotomies in each of these things. So check out Jocko's books. Extreme Ownership is a must. If you're looking for, if I could point you to one book, that's where to start. Next, this one's great. Recommended when I was listening to Andy Frisella's podcast, the Real AF podcast, Tim Grover, Relentless. From Good to Great to Unstoppable. So Tim Grover, he's a coach. He's worked with Hall of Fame, Kobe Bryant, Jordan. He's worked with all these dudes, athletes and top business people. So what the message of the book is essentially that there's three types of people. So there are coolers, closers, and cleaners. Let's break down what each of those are. A cooler is careful. He waits to be told what to do, watches to see what everyone else is doing, and then follows the leader. He's a mediator, not a decision maker. He's not taking sides unless he's forced to. He can handle a certain amount of pressure when things are going well, but when things get too intense, he kicks the problem over to somebody else. He can make a huge play, but he's not ultimately responsible for the outcome. He's the setup guy, keeping things cool until the closer or the cleaner can take over. So it's kind of the baseline, the cooler. The next level up the chain, an improvement from the cooler, is called a closer. A closer can handle a lot of pressure. He'll get the job done if you put him in the right situation and tell him exactly what you need him to do. He'll study all sorts of scenarios so he can anticipate what might happen, but he's uncomfortable when faced with something unexpected. He seeks attention and credit, and he's very aware of what everyone else is doing and what others think of him. He loves the rewards and perks associated with his fame and would choose financial security over winning or success. A cleaner, so the top level, according to Grover, is a cleaner, is rarely understood, and he likes it that way. So let's talk about some cleaner examples because he goes into a little more detail here. So when you're a cleaner, you keep pushing yourself harder when everyone else has had enough. You get into the zone. You shut out everything else and control the uncontrollable. You know exactly who you are. You have a dark side that refuses to be taught to be good. Let's stop there. Let's unpack that a little bit. There's one of those uncomfortable statements. As I was reading this book, I thought, wait a second, let's unpack that a little bit mentally. I need to sit on that a little bit, especially as a Christian person. When we're told we have a dark side, it's true, but we might not want to embrace that. Grover's encouraging us that, we have a dark side, and that dark side is important to get us where we need to go. You're not intimidated by pressure, you thrive on it. When everyone is hitting the in case of emergency button, they're all looking for you. You don't compete with anyone. You find your opponent's weakness and you attack. You make decisions, not suggestions. You know the answer while everyone else is still asking questions. You don't have to love the work, but you're addicted to the results. You'd rather be feared than liked. It's a bit controversial in today's modern world. You trust very few people, and those you trust better never let you down. You don't recognize failure. You know there's more than one way to get what you want. You don't celebrate your achievements because you always want more. Very few cleaners in the world. This book will ask you to analyze where you're currently at and where you're trying to go. It's very rare that anyone picks up this book and says, yeah, you know what? I'm already a cleaner. I know I certainly didn't, but I'm striving to get there. I'm closer today than I've ever been at any point in my life. And I can tell you when I picked up the book, I certainly was maybe a closer. I don't think I was a cooler because I'd advanced a little bit past that level, but I was certainly a average kind of a closer, but I'm getting to cleaner pretty darn quick. And this book's helped me a ton. Relentless, Tim Grover. It's a good one. Number 7, ready? Remember, no particular order. The book on mental toughness, Andy Frisella. So this book, the book on mental toughness, essentially has his first book, 75 Hard, in this book, and with an addition to it. It breaks down the 75 Hard program, which is the first phase of the Live Hard program, which is a year-long program. It talks about mental toughness. It cites a lot of examples from Andy's own life and from the lives of others. They're real-world testimonials from the program that he's laying out here. I'm just going to read something from the beginning. It's called Your Last 1,000 Days. Do you want to see a magic trick? Show me your last 1,000 days, and I'll tell you exactly where you are in life. I'll tell you your body fat, what car you drive, and how good your relationship is. I'll tell you your income, your goals, but most importantly, I'll tell you how happy you are. How? How can somebody tell all that just by looking at your last 1,000 days on Earth? Well, it's really simple. Every one of us is only as strong or as weak as our routines. And with 1,000-day sample size, you can easily see those routines at both the micro and macro level. By looking at your last 1,000 days, you and I can see the answers to questions like, how are you spending your time? Where are you spending your time? Who are you hanging out with? What are you reading? What skill are you learning? What work are you doing? How much sleep do you get? How much money are you spending? How are you exercising? What does your nutrition look like? Do you execute on a daily basis? Do you have short-term goals? Do you have a long-term strategy? Do you drink water or sugars? Do you do deadlifts or drugs? Do you have a sex life or a porn addiction? Do you have a gym membership or a fast food loyalty card? Are you watching documentaries or reality TV? Do you get outdoors or are you part of your furniture? Do you want others to win or do you talk shit and get jealous? Do you give back to others? Do you go to bed at night knowing that you killed it? Or do you lie there full of anxiety, thinking to yourself, damn, I wasted my day? Have you ever asked yourself those questions? Sometimes it's not easy to do. It means looking at ourselves and our lives in the mirror. When you don't like what you see, that's hard. If you're being honest with yourself, truly honest, the answers can be brutal. It can seem like a monumental task to turn your life around, but the reality is that it can be done, so long as you follow the right steps and then keep following them, one foot in front of the other, over and over and over again. Yeah, that's it. That's the book on mental toughness. I started this on day 1 of 75 Hard, so I've since finished it. It's amazing. I will tell you that reading is important. Reading's changed my life. I encourage you all, wherever you're at, reading is going to help you. Read 10 pages a day. What I like to do is I like to be reading I don't want to call them self-help, but personal development book, much like the 7 that I just outlined for you. I like to be in one of those, and I like to be reading a fiction book at the same time. It activates different parts of my brain. It helps me progress and advance and optimize my life while also entertaining me through the fiction and helping my creative side. So pick up a book, read 2 at once, read 10 pages from a fiction book and a nonfiction book every day. It'll help you in all aspects of your life. It'll help you be a better communicator, it'll help you be sharper, especially as we get older. We want to keep mentally sharp. Use a highlighter, get a physical book, put highlights in it. You can refer back. One of the things that I've been doing, and I did that with Mark Devine's book, The Unbeatable Mind, that I pulled out earlier. So I read that book several years ago. I went right back to it. About a week ago, I started it, and I'm seeing so many things that I didn't see when I first read it. So that tells you how your mind progresses, and as your life progresses and as you mature and you get better, you'll have a different perspective as you go back and check some of these things out. So that's what I have for today. I want to let you know that I want to encourage you guys, get engaged with me. Get on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. I'm not a big social media guy. I'm trying to become more so. I did a post when I was putting this show together about these 7 books. I would love for you guys to put together your list. share your 7 books, either in the comments on YouTube, get on Instagram, at Real Jim Moats, at Ministry of Freedom Show. Post them on there in the comments. Let's discuss them as a tribe. And as you guys are posting yours, that'll give me some ideas of what the next things are that I want to dive into as well. And if you read any of these or you have read any of them, give me your thoughts on that as well. If you agree with my list, cool. If not, tell me why or why not. I'm open to the discussion. That's all I have for you. Again, the book is really close to coming out. I'll have more details for that. I plan on doing a podcast on the actual release date and discussing that. And again, buy a couple. I need your support. Let's get this thing up the charts really, really quick after it's released. And that's all I have for this day. Till next time.